Chinese water torture. Since the beginning of recorded history, humans have been responsible for causing incalculable amounts of pain to one another. Over the course of many centuries, people's efforts to invent ever-changing methods of coercion and punishment have been continually evolving. In comparison to instruments of torture, such as the Iron Maiden or shackles and whips, Chinese water torture may not appear to be particularly gruesome, but history shows that it was. Even though it only seems like a drop of water, Chinese water torture is a very real and serious form of punishment. Let's get into the details of this slow-killing torture. Stay tuned as we are going to unwind some interesting facts about this torture. For those of you who don't know, in the Chinese water torture method, a victim is first bound up and then ice-cold water is poured again and again onto a specific area of the body, most often the forehead. The torment would not result in any kind of bodily suffering. The victims are left in a solitary setting with nothing to occupy their time and no one to talk to. The victim is made to feel as though they are in imminent danger of losing their life by continuing to be tormented by their captors while the comparatively painless process is ongoing. The sufferer was led to believe that the water was tainted with poison, which meant that their mental state was deteriorating. Interest in Chinese water torture has faded as attention has been focused on other forms of enhanced interrogations involving water, such as simulated drowning or waterboarding used by the United States during the Vietnam War and the War on Terror. Despite the lack of concrete proof of its use, Chinese water torture has a rich and intriguing history. Hippolytus D. Marsilius was the first to mention Chinese water torture in writings from the late 15th or early 16th century. Hippolytus is notorious for his research into sleep deprivation as a kind of torture, suggesting he had a morbid interest in inflicting pain on others. He carefully detailed in his publications the efficacy of sleep deprivation and harsh interrogation techniques in eliciting information from a victim. The same individual, who probably also came up with a method whose primary goal was to make its target insane. After observing how a stone might be hollowed down by water droplets dropping one by one, he thought to apply the same technique to the human body. Historians have speculated that the practice of water torture in China may have been inspired by its use in Spain. The Spanish Inquisition made frequent use of the torture technique of tying down captives and splashing water across their heads. In many cases, victims were restrained in an inverted position so they could see every drop of water being poured upon them, causing them to develop ulcers or, at worst, go insane. Psychosis is also a typical consequence of Chinese water torture, in addition to the victim's mental decline. Uncertainty surrounds the origin of the term Chinese water torture, but by 1892 it had entered the common language and was featured in the short tale The Compromiser in Overland Monthly. It was Harry Houdini who made the phrase well known. The renowned illusionist built a water-filled tank in England in 1911 and gave it the name Chinese water torture cell. He was dropped into the water upside down while having both his feet bound. He was seen by bystanders via the tank glass front before curtains masked his amazing escape. The public domain review claimed that he initially demonstrated the act in front of a crowd on September 21st, 1912 in Berlin. There are a number of additional horrific water torture methods that have been utilized for ages and even now. The most well-known of them is the technique of waterboarding, or the simulation of drowning. After rumors surfaced that it was used on captives at Guantanamo Bay, this technique, a relative of the Chinese water torture method, entered the public's attention. However, its history may be traced back to the 13th century. Since its inception, waterboarding has been considered a merciful kind of torture due to the fact that it does not inflict permanent damage to the body. Do you think Chinese water torture is effective? No matter how notorious the kind of torture may be, there is not a great deal of evidence to suggest that it is effective in extracting information from those who are subjected to it. According to the findings of the television show Mythbusters, the slow, steady application of water to a prisoner's forehead was the least compelling aspect of the ordeal. Instead, the majority of the effects were delivered by the apparatus that was employed to bind the prisoner. The well-known television show came to the conclusion that there was only a marginal effect when the technique was used on a calm participant who was not restrained. On the other hand, in a spooky twist of events, the presenter of Mythbusters, Adam Savage, got an email from a throwaway account saying that the psychotic break was feasible within 20 hours by employing a different method. The sender of the anonymous email speculated that by shuffling the order of the water droplets, the brain would be prevented from becoming used to the consistent rhythm. Therefore, the amount of harm that water may create by merely altering the procedure is probably far greater than what Mythbusters first predicted. Is it still in practice in today's world? Chinese water torture is still practiced today, but is widely denounced and seen as a violation of human rights. The United Nations Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhumane, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment is only one of several international treaties and conventions that clearly forbid it. While some countries, such as Iran, have criminalized just the physical torture of prisoners, others have outlawed the practice but continue to engage in it behind closed doors. It is well documented that following the September 11, 2001 attacks, the U.S. government extensively employed psychological torture tactics. Torture, in whatever shape it takes, is always wrong and always an affront to people's basic human rights. There is a persistent effort by human rights groups and other organizations worldwide to end torture and improve people's lives. That's all. Tell us in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.